It's live. I can just see a hat, Bill. I can see a hat, and I can see a skylight. There you go. There's your beard. Look at you, beardy man. I was just saying, with full transparency, before I put you in the call, I'm impressed that you turned up. Not that you have a reputation for not turning up, not that you have a reputation for not always being on time, but you're there, and thank you so much.
Yeah, that's all right.
So I was going to do a little bit of this, and I said, so I don't know if you've been following at all today. So we've had a load of people in, and we have this sort of slight, almost like a sofa of chat, which makes me sound like Richard Hammond on Grand Tour when they have that segue. The reason that we're here today, though, genuinely, Bill, is because of you. This is me taking your idea of True and going with it a little bit and creating True Manchester, resurrecting it from the past. I found, I don't know if I told you, there's video of the first True Lead. So we did True Leads last year and resurrected that as well. And there's some brilliant video of a different man. He didn't have a hat. He didn't have a beard. And there was about 10 of you. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. And this is so genuine. The reason I still pursue True events is because I love the format, and long may that remain, and we'll slap the hat on it and talk about True, and no badges, no nothing, no whatever. And we launched True by the Sea this year, which was great. This is a challenging time for, I guess, individuals. We're all going on a different sort of journey. We talked about the worky bit quite a lot. I guess it's, probably the conversation we had earlier on with Theo Smith was just that actually I'm not coping very well with this. The rules changed, and I don't just go to the office. I've got to be at home.
Daleki, mate.
Oh, is that me or you?
That's you, I think.
Is it me? It could well be me. We've been lucky so far with the technology. It was only Georgina and Harrogate where it really went quite Daleki. So what I guess today I really want to talk about the sort of recruitment, Bill. I really want to talk about Bill and the new stuff that you're doing with the homeless, because that's amazing. I don't know how to over-egg that. It's your pursuit. It looks slightly obsessive. I think you've said that yourself. It looks, you're into it. You can see the good that you're doing, the input you're making actually makes it.
We've booked and delivered 800 dinners in 7 days, so.
Amazing.
That'll give you an idea.
So the awkward question I was, how are you funding that? What can we do to help you fund that more?
No, so there's a charity, but we've also got a GoFundMe link, which I'll dig out and give you during the.
That'd be brilliant. What I'll do, obviously, we'll share that on the YouTube stream. We'll share that in anything we do, because I think for me that's a change in Bill. So Bill recruitment Bill. I look at Bill created True, run with True. Yeah. Bill the sort of tech talent advisor. But Bill supporting homeless people in a very, it's so close up and personal, it's a very different environment. Maybe talk through that and talk about what you've learned from that so far, because I said it must have just messed with your mind. It certainly messed with my, privileged middle class fat belly moment of having nothing to do with the homeless. They're people that I see on the street.
Yeah, that's cool. I can share some of that.
That'd be really cool. And Jim, I know you've got questions as well. So that was my 2 pence to say that I love Bill completely, and thank you for making True happen, because it meant I could go and do some more of these things. And then True Online happened last week, first time, and the result of this, and then Jim throw in. So Bill, over to you. Talk to us. That'd be great.
That's cool. Are we kicking off?
Oh yeah, we're live. Okay. We're live all day. We're live all day. This is it. It's a continuous stream, live all day.
I'm glad we're live. So So. Where do you want to start? What's the best place for you to start?
I don't know. Maybe
True and recruitment.
Yeah, talk about do that. Just start at the beginning. I remember you did an internet phone-in radio show.
Yeah,
that was the first time
So right in the so a number of things happened. So I had quite a successful recruitment career. I was a director of Primetime. For 12 and a half years. And as Primetime grew, we started off with 6 offices. We ended up with about 175 or something. So we built it up. We built it up based on, we built that business, and I did everything that wasn't directly running a branch. So as national account staff, where we introduced a computer system. Someone needed to take on some of the HR functions. I'm going to move to a different room, so I'm away from the top. So when we moved to some, this is real life.
It's the new world of everything. We've got dogs, we've got kids. It's not a problem, isn't it? It's great. I don't know why we were so hung up about it in the past, but it really shouldn't have been.
Yeah, this is proper life. So then I moved into doing. I had a trading company when I quit that, which I quit for a bunch of reasons. And the reason I left corporate life, I just really reproduced it. So I left was more family that, and then really I built a business over 7 years. Effectively, I was managing director of my own company. It's just it had my name over the door, but just continued with it as a job in many ways. And then when the recession came along, which was the big one, the last big one, I went bust from that. I dealt with agencies, their money kind of appeared, evaporated, and really ended up with nothing, and started again. And when I started again, it was the same time as the advent of social media, so beginning of Twitter and all that kind of thing. And I just decided to tweet, and I was connecting with people in a different way, because I wasn't really I didn't have a business or a product, so I wasn't looking for an angle. I was just connecting people, and Twitter enabled you to do that in those days. It was very easy to connect with whoever you wanted, and I connected with people all around the world, and spend really 10 to 12 hours on social media right at the beginning. And then Facebook came. I started the interview show. We'd call them podcasts now. It was really an internet phone-in. So I had 3, one for the Australian market, one for the US market, one for the European market, and connected a load of people, and started blogging. And I got my first break, really, of taking the social world and the recruiting world together. Did some hiring for Hard Rock Cafe, which we did 125 hires in 2 weeks end to end in Facebook, which made me a bit famous for a while. We won some awards for that and stuff. And that meant that I got Oracle, BBC, and my clients became corporate clients who were still exploring everything from social media to employers. All this was new. I was in the middle of that, of developing that, and then through that, then moved into technology, started helping tech companies. I had True go at building on all the time in the background. We started building. I started for startups and then VCs, and for a few startups as a product advisor, which really and became much more of a speaker at the major conferences globally. I've always been global. It was like Australia, US, India. I was speaking at all the major technology conferences and doing research, and still do. So that's kind of the shorthand version of how we got to here.
It's good. I mean, that helps, because I said I know bits of that. I don't know all of those bits. I first came across you. Was the phone-in show, and it was like nobody else was doing stuff like that. I was like, that's a bit interesting. Probably part of the time I was still very much an agency guy at that point. I was still leaning, and it evolved into more of the corporate market, and then and none of it has ever been by strategy or design, it's been by networking hard and making the most of opportunities that came along. Yes. It's tough, isn't it? That's the thing. It's tough to be, you've got a reputation, again, hopefully you've built a persona as well, haven't you? You are the man with the hat. You have got this amazing beard.
Yeah, it's quite funny, because that's something I've never really
I don't think you deliberate, but by reputation, that became the thing, didn't it?
Yeah, the hat became a story with one of the first True Londons we were doing. People still didn't really know the concept. We didn't really know each other online. We came together. It was in an incisive media office. Bill Fisher was working out there at the time. Yeah. That became the Social CV. And it was the first time for people like Jim Stroud, Ray Ruterman, and I brought them US speakers over to the UK, right?
Yeah.
So the first time that happened, and we had True London. It was the second True London, and it was kind of crazy. We had about 30 overseas visitors there. It went a bit crazy, but nobody really knew who I was. And as a start-up, we were staying in a cheap hotel. Shower wasn't working. And so I just wore a hat that day. And people were saying, oh, you need, what's going on with this? Say, a bit chaotic, said, oh, you need to speak to Bill. And they said, oh, who's Bill? He's the guy in the hat. So it just stuck from there.
Yeah,
so I've never
cool.
not worn a hat from then. And then you grow a beard and all this kind of stuff. And it just, which started the Movember thing. So it just kind of, these things evolve.
And because maybe that's it, because it wasn't, there's a danger people go, I mean, I'm probably the same. You try and think, right, I'm going to do this thing because that's the thing that people want to see. Whereas actually, if it just happens by accident, it's often the thing. Do you think a lot of your career has been? I mean, you said to yourself, it's about hard, but it's been about hard networking. But it's been
all of it. You know, I've never had a strategy.
Yeah.
And never purported to have a strategy or a plan. I've always network, and my whole career has been like that. Including in my corporate life, is I've been very good at making the most opportunities that come along.
Yeah.
So network, have a very open mind, don't be fixed on the direction you're going. And that's really the thing that's helped me most. I think the other thing is networking without purpose, which is a very strange thing for people, especially if you worked in a very structured agency world. So, you know, I think where I had the benefit of starting out is I was network, and it's a lot of the videos that I do for Johnny Campbell, which is another area from social talent that probably more people know me from having watched the videos. But I talk about just networking and not having this objective of who's a client, who's a candidate, what you're doing, but just networking in different groups, different communities, answering different things, connecting with people, where you can help people, you help people. And you don't have a financial motive to doing that. I think what the decision you have to make in the beginning is, am I building a network? Do I want to make money from my network or because of my network?
Yeah.
And if you want to make money from your network, which is the way most people do it, you're trying to build a network of customers.
Yeah.
Or prospects or people who look interesting. That's always going to be a one-sided relationship.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas I've always thought, you know, the bigger my network, the more connections, the more knowledge base I have, the more people I can message and ask for some advice or some help, something or whatever it is, then the more successful I've been because of my network rather than from my network. So I'm not trying to build a network of customers ever.
But by default, because people get to know you, you've built this collective network of people pass on, and it goes both ways, doesn't it?
You know, true in everything. We've never spent any money on marketing.
No.
I've never made a sales call. I've never pitched anyone.
I've
never sent out like 100 emails saying, will you sponsor this event or will you do this thing, right? So I've never done that. I've never done any of those traditional activities that you would associate in terms of sales or marketing or whatever it is. I've just worked on network, and the network has always provided. And I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah.
I think.
Come on.
As I say, I think that, Bill, that's brilliant, and I think anyone looking at their own personal brand, trying to emulate that in some way, can't, because it's just had a natural flow of what you've done, of how you're helping with things, and, you know, how you've gone out there. You know, it's nothing that can be enforced, and I think that's part of everyone's, you know, personal brand. You can only drive it a certain way, but what you've done, and with the hat tip, and as Martin was saying, with the man with the hat and the beard and everything, and that's where, you know, I've known you from, and that kind of thing. I think both Martin and I are really, really keen to understand also the other side of the stuff that you're doing at the moment. Martin alluded it to the start, and obviously connected with you on Facebook, seeing some of the things you're doing for the homeless, which is just amazing. I mean, how do you get all those Yorkshire puddings to rise, Bill? I mean,
how do you get to do that?
What's your Yorkshire pudding recipe, first of all? I mean, that's just great.
I can help you out with that, mate. It's a dead simple recipe. It's a dead simple recipe. I'll share it with you later. I'll send over the link. But it's really,
please do.
So, yeah, you know, this is my current opportunity, right? Because the things that I'm doing at the moment, in terms of the time it takes, I would never have been able to do without the virus. So this is how it's been quite good for me, in that I would not have been able to go out every day with a van. I would not have been able to cook meals, deliver meals, and be primarily focused on that and the logistics and all the stuff that goes with it. I mean, the charity was there. The charity's been around for about 2 years. They asked me, the guy who'd been running it had been running it originally from a hand truck, and then moved on to what he's doing now, and then moved on, and he got a sandwich delivery van, and then he needed to take a step back just at the start of the coronavirus stuff, right? So he needed to take a step back. I took on the van and said, yeah, okay. And this was like 3 weeks ago, and said, yeah, I'd been doing like Sunday breakfast. We did a Valentine's dinner. I'd been doing some other stuff around the charity, but actually the opportunity that said, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to be unlikely to be at conferences and stuff like this coming up. I would normally be in conference season now. I'm full on in conference season. It gave me the time to actually do something and really attack it aggressively that I was really passionate about. And it's been a fantastic learning curve, really, of a different world, of relationship building. I believe in the ethos. I'm a pretty passionate socialist, and kind of decided that I needed to be a passionate socialist away from the keyboard. That needed to mean not getting angry about politics and stuff like that, but actually doing something to address the imbalances or unfairness in society that I was seeing. And this has been, and I was looking for something, post the 10-year True London. I was looking immediately at probably doing something with, quite inspired by one of my American friends, Shelley Winner. I was inspired to do something with previously incarcerated young offenders back to work, use kind of my recruitment now in that, and got involved in doing the dinners Christmas time, and doing every weekend and building up from there. And I just run a fund to buy a horse box, because they told me they really wanted a horse box to convert into a vehicle for, effectively it's 2 offices, 2 rooms. We could take nurses out so they don't have to treat the rough sleepers in gazebo, which is what they're having to do, or you could take service connectors out who might be sorting out benefits or housing, or trying to get anyone to do anything online. You have to bring the online to them if they're rough sleepers, and we've got somewhere between 75 and 100 rough sleepers in Northampton, which has exploded twice the number since Universal Credit in the last 12 months. So, and it was in front of me, so I really wanted to go and do something. The community I was looking for, discovered, was actually on my doorstep, and going out there has been really a fantastic and uplifting experience. It really has, and I've learned a lot about trust and relationships and dealing with people and being non-judgmental. And then I've had to deal with the logistics of I can cook, but I've never been a chef. When you've got to do like 700-800, we've done 700-800 meals in the last 7 days, and
wow,
cooked them. But and I'm quite passionate that it's good food. We're not trying to serve up slop or soup kitchen stuff, So the point of the Sunday roast, and me doing Sunday roast on a Sunday, is I want to feed the rough sleepers the same thing, to the same standard as I would feed my family, because I think that's right. I should serve people food that I would eat. So there's challenges and logistics with just doing that every day, particularly as the coronavirus has, all of the traditional soup kitchens dropped off the evenings. So we started doing mornings and evenings and evening meals, and then we started doing a bit of lunches as lunch, because as the cafes have been shut in, as food. So 2 things have really happened that have accelerated this. As cafes and bars shut, so does access to food and access to toilets, bathrooms, all these kind of things for people who are rough sleeping. and also access to the bit of spare change that you get of an evening, which might have enabled you to go into a shop. So we've kind of had this accelerated requirement. The other thing that happens is as these things shut down, all the people from the surrounding towns who are rough sleepers congregate towards the main town. So you've also seen the numbers doubling in 2 weeks in a relatively short space of time. So every time I go out, when we started out, we were doing 25 breakfasts. We're now doing 75 to 100 dinners or breakfasts of a morning and a night. Currently, they're getting everyone into hotels. So I'm dealing with different things. One is part of the one-to-one time of talking to people about why it's beneficial for them to go into the hotel. And we've had to introduce kind of coronavirus protocol and distances. And I've just had to learn all this stuff. I've had to sort out things like where to get methadone scripts, because I'm having a conversation with someone who says, right, you know, I've been clean, relying on methadone for the last 9 months. I can't get my script because I can't go into my doctor's. That means, so there's only one alternative for me on that, which is to go back on the gear. And I don't want to do that. And we have a lot of tears, and I'm like, right, just give me an hour. And I'm searching every contact, everything I can think of, and we come up with a solution. We come up with a solution to connect with a doctor via a video link on the street. And just these things that we've had to tackle are a world which I've never been in to understand about drugs. Or I know I understand about alcohol, but not alcoholics necessarily. You know, so having to understand this stuff has been fascinating, and you also have to establish a high level of trust to get to that point, to have those conversations. So it's been, you know, the food is kind of, if you like, the connection. That's the breaking point. You turn up with breakfast one day and people take it from you, and the next, you know, people who are living in tents who don't come out of tents necessarily, they're acknowledging you, you're leaving stuff out, they're taking the food. The more that they see you, the more that relationship becomes quite strong very quickly, because you're doing something for them. And they're people who are used to, when someone does something for them, they've got an expectation that they're going to have to do something in return. So the trust is it's like a lifetime in a week, and then they can disappear, you know, and go into a hostel or whatever it is. So it's kind of super interesting. If I could afford to, I'd never work again. I'd carry on doing this all the time.
I don't think, Bill, there are words really you can put into the kind of work that you're doing and how you're helping that kind of thing. That's probably forgotten. You know, we're all potentially self-insular at this kind of time. You know, we're looking inwards in our own family, and rightly so in some respects, because we're trying to help out what we can with our own family and do our little bit. What you're doing is reaching out to people that, you know, probably have been forgotten, that whole system of thing. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, you get a whole load of stuff in this, Jim. You know, the thing that's been, I started thinking about it. You go, you know, when the hotels came up, they're trying to get one in hotels. And I'm thinking, well, you know, if you've been a rough sleeper for 7, 8 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is, why wouldn't you want to go into a hotel for a month? It's paid for, and you're getting 3 square meals, all that kind of thing. And then you talk to people about it, and you get certain things. One is a fear of authority. Some of those people don't have right to remain, so they're worried that if they go in and accept something which on the face of it is good for them because they can self-isolate and be taken care of, does that then mean they're going to be immediately deported? Lots of people on the street are hiding from something. It might have been a family background, it might be debt, in a number of things, you know, and that has to be pretty dramatic to make living on the street being a preferable option. But there's plenty of people out there like that, or have come out of the care system, ex-military, quite a lot of ex-military that can't quite, you've got lots of mental health issues going on and stuff like that. So was kind of trying to understand why it was, and having lots of conversations with the folks about, you know, what's in there. And the things we're getting back quite strongly are, you know, a worry about authority, ex-offenders who don't want to feel like they're going back into prison, fear that you're going to lose your stuff, what's going to happen, whether if there's an addiction issue, whether you're going to be able to feed that addiction whilst you're in a hotel. So we've had a lot of that to negotiate and learn. And what you discover is actually when people reach a point where risking life, maybe that's through drugs or alcohol or even just living on the street. It's an everyday occurrence. The coronavirus is just another thing. Right? To you and I, in our kind of cozy life, it's really dramatic. It's the dominating thing. We're all, terrified about it and thinking about self-blame and what it's do. To them, it's just it's another thing, right? It's not. It's another thing that is just there, but they view, well, if my life's reasonably worthless and I risk it every day anyway, this isn't any different. So, that kind of really smacks you, and is quite an emotional thing for me in terms of, well, if you don't, how do we get people back to valuing their life and their worth and their existence a little bit more, by spending a bit of time having a conversation, sometimes trying to talk about very normal things, particularly now that we've got to keep a social distance and wear gloves and not, it used to be you could give them a hug or pat them on the arm and that had a big value. Now we can't do that. But those things of saying, well, actually, I understand all this fear. I'm now beginning to understand, well, why wouldn't you go in a hotel? But having to work on it and say, right, this is what's in your interest. And I'm negotiating with the council about what's going on and all this kind of stuff. And so it's kind of very challenging, but kind of an amazing thing at the same time. And when you get some trust back, or you can, I had somebody tell me that they're passing through rough sleeping, but they're trying to move between a job, they've got a job somewhere else, and they ended up rough sleeping for a few weeks. And he said, from all of this, when we were talking, he was from a different part of the country, from Wrexham, and we had a mutual friend who's actually a multi-millionaire agency owner, who has a nickname that only his close friends know, and he knew this nickname. So we'd been in exactly the same circles, in exactly the same place, in the same bars, same clubs, not cheap clubs, 5 years ago. So you cross someone who's kind of, you say, well, that could be me on that path. And he said, the thing he remembers, and he will always remember the whole homeless experience, was when we gave him a roast dinner on the market square. And he said that was a magic to have fresh vegetables, makes everyone go crazy. So I make sure I do fresh vegetables every day. So all these kind of things and stories really hit you. And the challenge is, food is the catalyst, the middle bit. And I've always been very passionate about my cooking. I'm testing it at the minute in the volume and the speed and turnaround that we have to do it. But to take those things and say, right, that's the connection point, that'll connect us. But how can I use and learn all my human skills? Sometimes just to be useful, to sort out your script, or where you're going to sleep, or what's going on, or what's going on with your universal credit, or connect you with the service provider, or get you to the doctor to have a scan thing that you need checking and you don't want to go in the hospital. So I'm using all of my, I'm learning more about relationships and relationship building into the 3 weeks I've been doing this, living every day, with kind of 35 years in recruiting, I think. I've probably been talking too long, but that's
not at all. We said a lovely story. I've loved the story. I do have Joanne Lockwood waiting in the wings, and we're going to have Glenn, who's really early. He can have to wait a little bit longer. Sorry, Glenn, if you're listening. You're early, but I'm going to bring Joanne in because she's been sat there for a while. And Bill, I mean, thank you for so much. And I guess that's what I was hoping for, that you tell us a bit more about the here and now, because of the.
Yeah, I'll share with you. A link. I'll pick it over to you.
That'd be really good, because we'll get it out to everybody we can as part of this.
We raised the money we needed for the horse box. We raised that in 2 weeks. Half of it came from America. This was all pre-corona. That project to go and funded. It's all paid for, which is fantastic. We raised $7,000 for that. What we're needing is to raise some funds to cover the fact that we used to be feeding rooms we're feeding, and the things we're having to do, and the money we're having to pay. I'm having to go 10 shops to get 30 things.
Yeah,
because I can only buy 3, right? So there's so many things that and if anyone feels that they want to, I know it's tough for everyone, but if they feel like they want to chip in, I'll make sure that money is well used every day.
Yeah, Bill, thank you so much. That's